What's happening, guys? Back at you with another video. We got a new Scream movie that came out over the weekend. Actually, very shortly after Scream 5 came out last year. Basically, like a year apart. They put it out pretty quickly, I gotta say. But we got this new Scream 6 movie that came out over the weekend. So I'm going to be basically giving my review, my thoughts on this movie. Probably the first part will be like a spoiler-free kind of review. That way, I don't really spoil anything. And for those of y'all that haven't seen it yet, y'all are able to kind of take this review and not get spoiled by it. But the second part will probably have spoilers, and I'll say spoiler alert before the second part starts, because there's a couple things I want to talk about that do have spoilers in it. So let's go ahead and get on to the spoiler-free review. I gotta say, overall, I enjoyed this movie. It definitely was a movie that I was looking forward to this year, one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and I think it definitely lives up to some of the things I was wanting and kind of hoping for in this movie. I would definitely say this movie is definitely more, I guess, not necessarily violent, but it's more gruesome compared to other Scream movies. This movie was definitely, when it came down to like the kills and stuff like that. And kind of the thing with Scream is that it doesn't have super creative kills. You know, the main kills that go on in these movies are stabbings and things like that. So it's kind of interesting if you're able to create kind of, come up with creative ways on those around those killings. You know, there are stabbings and all that stuff, because that's mainly the killings that we get in these movies is stabbings and stuff. So it's kind of interesting if they're able to make new creative ways around those stabbings. I wouldn't say the kills in this movie were super creative, but they were definitely more violent, definitely more gruesome. Like the way they did the execution of all the kills was really great. Just the way they were shot, the way they were performed, really was definitely gruesome and a little more gorier too. There's like a lot, like not a lot of gore in this movie, except for like one part probably, or not. Yeah, kind of one part, and then just the aftermath of some of the other kills and things like that. I like the way that these kills were definitely more gruesome. They do like close-up shots whenever they're getting stabbed, and just the way that they show the stabbings and all that stuff. There's even one part where this person gets stabbed. I'm not gonna say who, but the person gets stabbed basically in the gut. And the way that they're shot, they do a close up on it, and it's like you see Ghostface. He stabs them in the gut, twists the knife, and starts going up. And it's like it's kind of the way it just makes you feel when you see it and all that stuff. And then some of the other stuff that you see too. And honestly, it's the way the stabbings were and the way that the aftermath is. You know, they show you kind of basically the aftermath of stuff. So there's definitely a lot more blood. Like I said, there's a little gore in like one or two parts maybe. But yeah, just the way they execute it is definitely more gruesome and more violent and a little more gorier, I guess you could say. So I like how they were able to do that compared to other Scream movies where it was definitely a lot more. So I like that how they were able to do that. One of the things I was kind of looking forward to in this movie was also too they moved the setting to New York City. So I was kind of interested in seeing how that would actually play into the overall story, and like how it would play into, can they get a little creative with it, with the whole environment and all that. And I think I gotta say they did a pretty good job when it came to being in New York City and the whole setting and the whole environment, because you get some of these shots to where it's like it's very specific to New York City. Like there's one part where this is not super spoilery because it is in the trailer, but there's one part where Tara and Sam are walking on the street, and then Ghostface pops up at them, and they run into basically a bodega of sorts, a little store, little convenience store, whatever it was. And it's in the trailer too, so you know what part I'm talking about. And Ghostface follows them in there, and there's a group of people, and in previous movies, Ghostface didn't really attack when there's big crowds of people. He didn't really attack too much in the daylight, maybe a couple of times here and there and stuff like that. And I like how this Ghostface basically was the way the New York setting was, and environment was, but I like how this Ghostface was definitely more aggressive in his attacks, to where he didn't really care that there's crowds, or he didn't really care that it's daylight or anything like that. He was really aggressive on his attacks, which I definitely did like and definitely did enjoy. So the whole New York setting, to where like they run to the store, there's a group of people, Ghostface doesn't care, still tries to kill and attack them. There's a part where they're trying to escape the apartment, and it's a high couple stories apartment, and they're trying to climb across and escape and things like that. And also too, when they're on a subway, and then the subway's like a bunch of crowded people on a subway, and then the lights flicker off and on, and just the way that you get this tension to where it's like Ghostface is could be on that subway and you don't even know, or whenever the group actually goes on the subway, there's actually a bunch of people dressed up as Ghostface, so they're like, it's a very tense moment to where it's like you don't know if there's a real Ghostface there or not. And just the way the lights flicker off, the way it's like crowded with people, and then people don't pay attention, it's like, and just the way it was. So I like the New York setting that they're able to do with this, using the whole New York setting environment to them advantage and all that. This definitely was very used very well. Great, it had a great opening kill scene. I gotta say, this one might be one of my favorite opening kill scenes. I think it was super great. The way it was used, really, just the way that the things that some of the things that happen in the opening kill scene. I don't want to really spoil it, but I gotta say, probably one of my favorite kill scenes is definitely a great kill scene. And I gotta say, they with this movie, Scream 5, well, basically in Scream 5, I wasn't super attached to those characters, just like Sam Terra and some of the returning characters that we get in Scream 6. I wasn't super attached to them in that movie, but when it comes to Scream 6, I think they did a better job of establishing these characters and making you actually get attached and care for them. So I would say they did a really good job with that, with establishing the characters, making you actually feel for the characters and being attached to the characters too, to where you're like actually worried about them. Oh, it's like, oh, is one of them going to get killed off or something like that? So I think they did a really good job with this movie. And then when it comes to legacy characters, I think they use the legacy characters well, like especially with Kirby returning. I think she's used really well. She returns basically as an FBI agent, and she's helping them solve this case. And used really well. Gail comes out too, and used really well. Used sparingly. She's used sparingly, which is pretty good. And I think one of the good things that they're doing with establishing these characters going forward, I think we won't necessarily need the legacy characters that much anymore. Like, I like seeing them around, but they've done a good job of establishing these other characters and making you feel for these other characters to where that you could continue the story with them, and you won't really need the legacy characters. I mean, it'd be nice to see them here and there throughout the movies and stuff, but I think they've done a good job of establishing the characters to where you don't really need the legacy characters anymore. And when it comes to Sydney, like, of course she wasn't in this movie, but I like how they mentioned Sydney, and then basically that they said like Gail was the one that was saying that Sydney called her and heard about the attack and all that stuff, and she was basically saying, "Oh, Sydney is going to leave out of town. She's going to take her husband and the kids away, make sure they're safe, but she sends her love." Honestly, that works for me, and with the way this movie is and the way the story of this movie is, it works well to where Sydney is not necessarily needed in this movie. But I do like the mention of her, like they at least mentioned her character, what's going on with her character. I like that they did that because they actually did a good job of where Sydney was not able to return for this movie, but they did a good job of not having her in the movie to where she wasn't really needed. But I like the mention of her and what was going on with her character and how they mentioned that. But overall, I gotta say I did enjoy this movie. I definitely like the more violent, gruesome, kind of gorier stuff that they're doing in this movie. I really like that as opposed to other movies that haven't done that much. But like I like how they kind of stepped it up in this movie. Overall, I would say I kind of like this movie more than the fifth one that came out last year. I talked about the fifth one a little bit last year. I think the fifth one is definitely a good movie. But there's just a couple things about the fifth one that I didn't like as much. I think this one does a little better job of doing some things. I like it a little bit more in the fifth one. I will say though, I was actually able to figure out one of the killers, one of the Ghostface killers. I was like during the movie, I was able to figure out one of them, and like I was like saying, oh, that person I feel like is the Ghostface killer. I was able to get it right. One of them at least I was able to get right. There is more than one, as per usual as Scream movies. There's more than one Ghostface killer. But I was able to get one of them right. So yeah, I would say that this movie does have some, like the way that Scream 5 had similarities to the first original Scream movie. I would definitely say that this Scream 6, does have some similarities to Scream 2. I'll say that. So take that as you will. Think about it. It does have similarities to Scream 2. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, that's going to be basically a spoiler-free kind of review. So I'm going to get into some spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie yet, don't want to get spoiled, definitely leave now. But I'm going to go ahead and get some spoilers I want to talk about real quick that just want to talk about real quick. All right, one of the things I want to talk about is that's a spoiler for this movie is, well, it's a kind of a basic spoiler for this movie, not super high-end spoiler. They seem kind of invincible in this movie when it came to some of the characters. And basically they killed off the new characters that came in, they killed them off. And when it comes to our established characters, Sam Terra, Chad and Mindy. They almost seemed kind of invincible. There's definitely one part where Mindy's on the subway. She gets stabbed in the gut and, stabbed in the gut and whatever, stuff like that. But she's able to walk away fine in a sense to where we see her at the end of the movie and she's like, all right. And she literally got stabbed like right a little bit right before that. And then there's one part where Chad is fighting off one of the ghost faces. The second ghost face appears. They both hold him down. They start stabbing him in the chest, the torso, and all that stuff, like multiple times, like at least 20, 30 times, maybe. And it was crazy how by the end of the movie, he literally would survive that. He was able to come out of it. Of course, they took him away to the hospital or whatever, but still, he was able to come out of it. And so the way it was they really felt invincible. And I was like, I mean, should they die after this? I mean, like, I don't know. Nonetheless, if they actually did kill off Chad, it seemed like they were going to kill off Chad. I would have been okay with it. I do like the character. Like a little part of me is glad that he did survive because I like the character and want to see him more. So a little part of me is glad that he survived. But it's like on the other hand, it's like I might have been okay with it if he did actually get killed off, or if it came to Mindy killing off. I like the character. I would like to see more of her. Of course, I'm glad that she kind of did survive. But might have been okay with it, I might have been okay with it. Nonetheless, I am glad that they did actually survive, so we can at least see these characters in the next movie. Especially with the part with Gale, where Gale gets attacked by Ghostface. I was ready for her to go off. Like I was ready for her to die in that part. Like I thought it was a good send off. She went out. If she would have died, she at least went out with a fight. That's which I like. I like that she was able to go out with a fight, and I would have been okay with it if she went off and she died, or whatever, stuff. But no, they kept her survive, and like I said with the other characters, a little part of me is glad that she did survive. But I was actually okay with it if she happened to be killed off. Like I was saying, these characters did seem really invincible in this movie. So not necessarily it's kind of a nitpick, I guess you could say, but not necessarily anything that was completely bad in this movie. I want to go back to the opening kill scene real quick. I thought, like I said, it was a great opening kill scene. I like how they used a New York setting where they call out the professor, Samara Weaving's character. They call her out to the alley. Nobody's around. She gets stabbed multiple times. Ghostface reveal, and it was like, what are they doing here? Because like watching it for the first time, I was like, what are they doing here? They're revealing the Ghostface already, and it's Tony. What's his name? Is it Tony? Forget his name. It's like Revelori. I know it's that. But the way they were able to reveal, I was like, are they revealing the Ghostface killer already at this early and stuff like that? But it turns out he was just trying to take the place of Richie, trying to finish what Richie started, and basically we get the real Ghostface that's in his apartment, meets him in his apartment, kills him in his apartment, and they also killed his partner too. So I think that was a good opening kill scene. Actually, I gotta say it's definitely one of my favorites now in the franchise. I'm gonna talk about the reveal. Like I said before earlier, this definitely does play out like Scream 2, where we get the college setting, and basically the same reveal that we got for Scream 2, where it's a parent that's taking revenge because in the previous movie, their son was killed or died, whatever, and was killed by the final girl, basically. And that's basically the same way it plays out here, with same thing as Scream 2, whole college setting, reveal, Ghostface reveal, turns out it was basically a parent, and in this case, the family, at least the family, but it has that core parent who's taking revenge out on the final girl that killed their son in the previous movie. So, with that being said, I'm wondering, is that going to take place to where we get another Scream 7 and it's going to take place to where it's going to take similarities to Scream 3 to where it's like, oh, like the way the theory is being going around that Stu Macher is still alive and he comes back. If they pull that off to where he's actually the mastermind behind stuff in Scream 7 or whatever, that would be interesting. And, but yeah, basically this plays out like Scream 2 in a sense. Definitely different similarities and all that. But I did like this movie. I did enjoy this movie, even though it had those similarities to Scream 2. When it came to the reveal, like I said, I got one of the killers right, and I was on my guesses. I got one of them right. In this case, those three killers, which is basically the whole family, and just the way it plays out. I'm not going to say I was super surprised by the reveal, but I do like this reveal a little bit more than what we got in Scream 5. I think it's a better reveal. I think I'm not going to say better motivation or better motive, but I like this reveal a little bit more than what we got in Scream 5. Because I was definitely underwhelmed with the reveal from Scream 5. But this one wasn't totally super surprising, but I like it better than what they did in the previous movie. So I like that thing about it. But overall, I did enjoy this movie. I did like a lot of things they did with this movie. I gotta say, it's definitely when it comes to my ranking, is definitely probably going to be higher up, or at least towards the middle of my ranking for these movies. Be on the lookout for that when I actually rank the movies. But yeah, I think I enjoyed this movie a lot, and I like a lot of things they were able to do with this movie. So I'm looking forward to the next one whenever they do next one, if it does come out and all that. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully we get another one. I really did enjoy this movie. Definitely go check it out if you're a Scream fan. I think Scream fans will definitely like this one. So definitely go check it out. But that's going to do it all for this video. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are if you've seen Scream 6 already. But that'll do all for this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Remember, if you want to be part of Team Legendary, all you got to do is subscribe and turn notifications on so you know when I post another video. Hope you all have an awesome day. And remember, be legendary.